simultaneously. It was the BRICS summit that nobody strangely was really covering or paying attention to. BRICS is composed of BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It's just 5 countries, but the potential is massive. Each country has participation in their own individual trade blocks. For instance, Brazil is part of the South American Free Trade Area, which has 11 members. Russia is part of the European Economic Union, the trade area, with 8 members. India, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, 8 members. China has their own partnership with 15 members. South Africa has a trade agreement with 34 member states. Now, I point this out because this axis is a juggernaut. It could become a juggernaut and hostile to the U.S. dollar really fast. So at the beginning of the BRICS summit, President Xi was there, and he declared that the West was, quote, weaponizing the world's economy. We were. Everything we do, if you don't agree with what the West is saying, particularly America, we'll cut you off. Well, that's not really a stable system. So they got together in the BRICS, at the BRICS summit, they laid out 75 points. And here's what President Xi was saying. He urged people in the West to read it. Now, why would he do that? Because he wants you to know exactly what's coming. For the economic axis of evil or good to replace the dollar international system, they must first find a way to operate outside of the IMF, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization. And the dollar is the last one. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. These are the ones that, kind of settle debts and work together and decide who's going to, get some bailouts, who's not. The WTO is the Western Trade Agreement, and then the dollar is the one that everybody uses. Points 37 and 38 are about, quote, enhancing cooperation on supply chains between BRICS countries and their partners, and it goes into specifics. But it's clear what this is about. They're going to replace the World Trade Organization. Point 39 talks about a, quote, new development bank that has just been opened in Shanghai. That's their solution to both the World Bank and the IMF. Point 49 talks about the new intra-BRICS trade system that can make transactions within their group. What does that mean? Do you remember when we kicked the world off of SWIFT? We'll get them now. They won't be able to make transactions because we're the only one with a system that can make those interbank and intercountry transactions. We're going to kick them off of SWIFT. There's a new intra-BRICS trade system that will do what SWIFT used to do. The last thing is to ditch the dollar, and they can completely circumvent Western sanctions. But it also will mean that half the world will dump their dollars. You think there's inflation now? Wait until half of the countries of the world no longer need to use the dollar, no longer believe it's worth its weight in gold, and just dump them. Putin said directly, right out in the open during the BRICS summit, they are telling us what they're going to do. They are urging us to pay attention. And we are so arrogant that we are not taking it seriously. Everything I pointed out to all of those friends and economists that I've talked to over the last 20 years, that the dollar is going to be dethroned. And they said, no, because there's no other system. You don't understand. And I said, I understand the free market and humans enough to know there's a point of no return where people say, you know what? It's not worth it. Let's build something else and then clobber the dollar. That will never happen. Well, I've lived in a point of history where I've seen too many things that cannot happen. By the way, if you have to live under this system, which we will, all of this goes through, I want you to know this. Brazil is the world's second largest soy producer. Russia is the largest wheat producer. South Africa is top 10 in corn. China has a quarter of the world's grain. India is number 2 in rice. You add Saudi Arabia and we're done.